Basically, I was finishing a job at the place I worked there, and I was scared about what was coming, and I packed up a bunch of equipment and I snuck it out the back and I stole it. And then I was bragging about that to my AA friends, and they said, "Do you tell your sponsor about that?" And I said, "No, why would I tell him?" And they said, "Just try it, see what he says." So I said, "All right." So I told my sponsor that I stole, you know, $1,000 worth of gear. And he said, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "Well, I don't like their labor practices. They offshored a lot of their labor. They also have been very skimpy with vacation time, and they haven't been dispensing that out in a proper way." And my sponsor said, "Oh, so you did that as a matter of principle?" And I said, "That's right. That's why I did it, because I don't like how they conduct themselves. And I did it as a matter of principle." And he said, "Well, a funny thing about principles is they usually cost you something. They don't usually get you something." He said, "The bad news is you got away with it. You didn't get caught. You did it because you were afraid. The chief activator of our character defects is our fear. And you were afraid and you stole stuff because you don't know what's coming next in your life. So you're going to do it again next time you're afraid. You're not in control of this. Your defects are." He said, "If you keep doing this, you're going to drink. We can't act like this. So you're going to have to get caught." And I said, "How?" And he said, "You have to go tell them what you did." And I said, "But I could get in trouble for that." He said, "You're already in trouble. If you want to stay sober, you need to take care of this." And as I was going back to my place of work to tell my boss what I had done, it was the first time that I could consciously remember doing something because it was the right thing to do instead of because I wanted to do it. In fact, I didn't want to do this. I was doing it anyway. Sobriety for me has been learning about living life according to some principles, which means doing things I don't want to do. And sometimes it means giving up certain things. And the reward is I don't have to run around doing what I want to do all the time because that's actually a harder way to live.
I heard it through the grapevine.
Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Sam, an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
And I'm Don, an alcoholic in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Don, it feels like forever since I've seen you. It was yesterday, but it feels like forever since I've seen you.
Of course, we see each other all the time. We work together, Sam.
What's going on, Donnie?
I've been reading the daily quotes that come in, and there's one called The Secret from Vandalia, Illinois, in the Grapevine, February 2001 issue.
That's a long time ago.
And it's also in the beginner's book, Getting and Staying Sober in AA. You can get a copy at aagrapevine.org or wherever fine literature is sold.
Like your intergroup or central office.
Yeah. Read the quote, Sam.
The secret is, there is no secret. Working the steps with a sponsor, going to meetings, helping others, and above all, keeping God and sobriety first have kept me sober almost 5 years now. I always had heard that things in plain sight are the hardest to find.
Woo-hoo. There is no secret.
That's the secret.
Just doing the action. That's the whole thing. I wanted to complicate it when I come in. I wanted to study it and get in deep to it. Just follow along and do the things that I'm asked to do in AA, and my life got better, and I didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, we just kind of let it happen, right? It reminds me that when I was sitting down with my first sponsor and we were talking all about this, I got to figure things out. I cannot make me not try to figure things out.
Yeah.
And what I got clear on, all right, Sam, you're going to try to figure out how this works and why it works and all this kind of stuff and make it complicated. But just do that over here on the side. Don't let that get in the way of what's in front of you, which is do the work.
Yeah, can't use it as an excuse to not move ahead.
Exactly. And I figured it all out. And there's so many secrets. And if y'all want to know about them, well, I'm not going to tell you.
I got one.
What?
What is our code?
Well, tolerance, love and tolerance.
Love and tolerance is our code. Okay, come on in. That's the secret code.
I thought it was bang, bang, bang on the door, baby.
You can bang, bang, bang on the door real loud and we'll let you in too.
Tin roof. Rusted.
Who's our guest today, Sam?
Don, today we are talking with Shaun S in New York City. And afterwards, we'll answer a question sent to the Ask It basket.
But first, the news. announcing our new Grapevine weekly open AA meeting every Wednesday at noon Eastern Time.
We'll feature a host and 2 speakers each week, including Grapevine article contributors, AA members, and trusted servants. All are welcome. Don't miss this.
It's an online speaker meeting. Find the link in our Instagram account. Search Instagram for AA Grapevine. You'll find it.
The Zoom meeting ID is 871-2036-8287. Passcode 238047.
And are Wednesdays not a good time? You can catch the meeting on our new podcast and on YouTube.
Sweet.
I went to the Grapevine meeting last Wednesday, and it was great. It's 2 speakers. Your camera's off, so you just sit and listen to the 2 speakers. So it's a speaker meeting, and I didn't realize it, but I'm going to start bringing my lunch and eat and listen to an AA meeting.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's good.
I might have to eat my breakfast to an AA meeting.
You are in a different time zone.
I'm in so many kinds of different zones.
You're in a different...
I'm in the twilight zone. And this concludes the news.
Take me to your sponsor. Need a lift? Get our best of collection of jokes and cartoons from the Grapevine, all contributed and drawn by AA members. When you finish this delightful paperback, you too will be able to say, I'm at the very wit's end. Take me to your sponsor. Only $14.99 in the store at aagrapevine.org.
My name's Shaun. I'm an alcoholic. I got sober in Kalamazoo, Michigan when I was 15 years old. So that was on September 11th, 1984. And I live in New York City now. My home group is PAX.
Wow, PAX, as in P-A-X, peace?
It's PAX. Yeah, I guess there, nobody's really, it's a men's group. We're not clear on what that means. Like some people think it was originally a group for members of law enforcement who needed to remain anonymous, and somehow the acronym spoke to that. I can't remember. I don't know if that's true. Nobody really knows for sure.
It's old. It's an old meeting.
It is an old meeting. Yeah, it's been around for a long time. I like the idea of that it means peace in Latin, so that works.
Yes,
absolutely.
Where does it meet?
It meets at Gustavus Adolphus Church on 22nd Street at 22nd and Park Avenue in Lower Manhattan. There are 3 meetings a week. There's a Monday night Big Book at Calvary Church on 21st Street and Park. And then there's on 22nd and I guess 3rd, there's Gustavus Adolphus. On Tuesday nights, we have a step meeting. And then Thursday nights, we have a speaker meeting.
How interesting.
Yeah.
I have not heard of a group that meets in different locations.
Yeah, we had the Monday night Big Book and the beginner meeting in the same building. And then we had a mold problem in the basement, so we had to get a second location, and that's how that happened.
Very cool. That sounds like a wonderful group. I think I might need to get to New York again. It's been a minute.
Come and see us. It's a great group of guys.
Well, Shaun, you got sober at 15, right?
Yeah, I was 15 years old. I was in Battle Creek, Michigan at a rehab called New Day. I'd been there 43 days. I was totally bought in. They taught me in rehab about the progression of the disease. I believed that I was an alcoholic at that time. I wanted to get sober.
But you wanted to get sober at 16. What were you drinking?
Oh, well.
You're not allowed to drink.
Yeah, there's a young people's meeting in New York called Never Had a Legal Drink. And I've actually spoken there. So I don't know what I can tell you. My father was a practicing alcoholic at the time, so I got into a lot of his booze. I got into my neighbor's booze. I had a friend across the street who his dad smoked a lot of weed, and we got into that. I could get drugs and alcohol at school. There was a gas station attendant who I would bring him weed, and then he would give me half pints of whiskey. So that was a regular transaction of mine.
Fair trade, yeah.
It worked for me. And then
whiskey is your drink of choice.
I liked whiskey,
yeah.
Although I drank whatever I could get my hands on. Mm-hmm. And I liked, there was a guy on the block that sold pills that he made out of his basement for $0.25 a piece. And I always took 2 of those. And I never found out what they were, but I knew that if I took 2 of them, I couldn't walk anymore. And
oh my God.
There is some insanity in that.
Maybe. Yeah, a little bit. My mom had tried to get me sober. I didn't want to get sober. It was in rehab that I decided that maybe I had a problem. And she sent me on a church trip. She thought that would help. I was going with this church on some mission trip, and we were sleeping in the basement of another church in another city, and I found a box of champagne in the basement of that church. And I drank that champagne, and then I got kicked off the church trip.
Yeah.
So my mom said, okay, that's not going to work. You're going to rehab. And I said, well, let's at least wait till school starts because it's summer vacation and I have more partying to do.
Right. Let me wait till something
Your
important comes
priorities
up.
were right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah, she said, no, you're going to go or I'll get a judge to send you. And so I said, okay. So I went.
Oh
And
my gosh.
and then in rehab, I was a little bit crazy at that time because I'd also been, I mean, I didn't limit myself to alcohol. I preferred alcohol, but if you're
Uh-huh.
15 and you're in Kalamazoo, Michigan in 1984, you just do what you can.
You get exactly.
Like I huffed a lot of furniture spot remover, which I don't recommend.
Good times.
That'll kill a few brain cells.
Yeah, I would see black and white and I'd hear helicopters coming.
Mm.
And so I got into rehab and I was a little weird. I heard voices and there was a debate about whether they wanted to put me in the psych ward on the first floor or put me on the third floor rehab.
Mm.
I was nuts.
Yeah.
They kept me on the third floor as my mind calmed down and I got basically detoxed.
Mhm.
And they taught me about the progression of the disease and the mental obsession with alcohol and how it gets worse over time and that it gets less fun each time, but I have to do it more after every time because life continues to suck without it.
Oh yeah.
And they took us to these AA meetings once a week. And this, I think, is still maybe the worst service commitment that anyone has ever had in the history of AA. This poor guy sat in a room in a church basement and waited for a van full of teenagers from rehab to come. We were the only people in the meeting. And we were,
Oh,
yeah, I know. And I mean, we were just a bunch of knuckleheads grab-assing in this room, joking around, not taking it seriously. And this one guy who would just drink maybe 20 cups of coffee throughout the meeting. And he would tell his story and he tried to remind us, he was like, hey, this is an AA meeting. You don't, no crosstalk, don't criticize each other. There were two things about this guy. One, when he shared about his drinking, I identified with him in a way that I couldn't identify with the counselors in AA.
How old was he?
I mean, I was 15, so he was old,
whatever he was old, right?
probably in his late 30s or 40s.
Uh-huh.
The other thing that is he looked miserable. And I just thought that's how I would feel without a drink. You
Mm.
know, he
Mm.
looked like he really wanted to stay sober. He looked like he was basically just gutting it out in this meeting to get through it with all of us.
Why do you think he was doing the meeting by himself?
Probably a lot of people didn't want to go to that meeting,
Yeah.
probably because of us. Like, it wasn't a normal AA meeting. It was just a bunch
No.
of rehab kids. But he stuck it out.
He's to
And
be commended.
I knew he wasn't getting paid to be there. He said he was doing this because he didn't want to drink. And there was something about that formulation that made sense to me. I mean, rehab helped me, but there was something about what he was doing that spoke to me on a deep level.
Wow.
I knew he was being honest. You know, if he had been like super happy to be in that basement with all of us jerks, I don't think I would have believed him.
There's also that part where, an alcoholic recognizes an alcoholic.
That's it. He had just enough of that squirminess in him where I just thought, yeah, I could relate to this guy. This is, if I were him, that's how I'd be feeling. But he was still doing it and showing up and not drinking. The counselors, sometimes I felt like were giving me up their professional opinion about things, and some of it was happy horse.
Bleepity bleep.
And this guy was basically saying, it's not always fun every day, but this beats the heck out of drinking. And he told his story, and he was a low bottom drunk. He'd had a hard time. I'll still never forget. He said, I would spend all my day lying on my couch, and my living room was like a sewer. And I don't have to live like that today.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, maybe I have this thing. I want to give this a try. And then back at rehab, I had a week to go. They had voting for the president of the floor.
I'm the president of rehab.
Yes, you get to be president of rehab. And there was sort of this gentleman's agreement that if you were going to graduate in the next week, that you would get to be president of the floor because you don't have any more chances and you've been there the longest because people are cycling through. And I was at that point the senior. And Janet, who had 2 weeks left, got voted president of the floor. And I got sergeant at arms. And I was so resentful. And there I was so pissed off at Janet and all of them, frankly. And if in the big book, there's the story about this guy named Jim who owned a car dealership and he lost it because of his drinking. Right. And then he's back at the car dealership working at the place he used to own and he's sober and he gets into a fight with his boss and he gets a resentment and then he goes to a diner and he puts whiskey in his milk and he drinks it. I was pissed off at Janet, and so I had a girlfriend in rehab, which you weren't supposed to do, and it was family visitation day, and my family hadn't come to visit, She said, "Hey, you can't have aerosol cans up here. Why is that?" And I said, "Oh, you can huff those. You can get high off those." And she said, "Oh, I have a can of up here that they didn't catch coming in." And I was like, "Oh, well, let's go back to your room and I'll show you how to get high off it." And we went back to her room and then we brought some people with us and we huffed that can. I showed everybody how. And this kid whose parents were in NA came walking down the hallway and they said, "It smells like a relapse in here." And that was the first thought that I had, that I shouldn't have done that. And I immediately went into denial and I was like, it wasn't a relapse because I didn't plan it. I didn't want to do it. I was just trying to help other people.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
so somebody told on me. And then 2 days later, they kicked me out of rehab. And they said, "You can't stay sober in rehab. You're a danger to the other people here. You're never going to make it out there and you're going to have to go. You're a problem." And that was my first spiritual experience. I don't call it a spiritual awakening, but I had, while I was on the hot seat and they're telling me what a loser I am and how I'm not going to make it. I
Mhm.
just had this thought that didn't even feel like it came from me. And it said, "You won't have to drink if you just go to AA. Like, just
Mm.
do the next right thing and you won't have to drink." And so when I got home, my mom's boyfriend at the time was in AA and he took me to my first AA meeting. And they told, they just said, in Michigan in those days, your first meeting, if it was your first meeting, they called it a first step meeting and they would
Mhm.
do a round robin and everyone told their story. You're by far the youngest person here. Just think about how you can identify with us. Don't think about how you're different. So I said, all right, I can do that.
That's a beautiful setup, really, for anybody walking into their first AA meeting.
Yeah, that's golden. That's like classic AA right there.
Yeah.
I'm in it, wherever I am, I feel that sense of anxious apartness. I think I'm different from everybody else. I don't belong here, wherever it is. They all got the user manual on how to be a human, and I didn't.
Yeah.
Just those in that short bit of advice, they called it terminal uniqueness. But if you're going to stay alive, you're going to have to think about how you are like everybody else here, not how you're different.
So you were the youngest one in the room. Did you ever find other young people in AA in those early days?
About 6 to 9 months in, other teenagers started trickling in, and we did form a group of young people in AA there.
The fact that you were in there was attractive to the new people who were coming in.
Maybe,
And
yeah,
unintentionally, you're doing service work by going to the meeting.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point.
Yeah. I've heard many people who got sober at such a young age talk about, I haven't even gotten things to lose. So being able to relate to what people are sharing is really difficult. But you were relating still to how these people were talking about how they felt.
That's right, Sam. That's a great point. When they talked about lying about their drinking, when they talked about feeling ashamed of what they did while they were drinking, when they
Yeah.
talked about trying to quit or cut down their drinking and not being able to quit or cut down, when they talked about losing friends because of their drinking, when they talked about trouble with their loved ones, like in my case, my mother, because of their drinking,
Mhm.
all of that I could completely identify with. Basically, the feeling of powerless, of not being able to control, of not knowing what was going to happen when I picked up a drink. And that's what they shared about in that meeting, was all that kind of stuff. And that I could completely identify with.
Yeah.
Can you think of a piece of wisdom that you have that you share with sponsees and such that has been spoken back to you?
I had a sponsee who he had lost his mother. It was a very difficult thing for him, and he was settling her estate, and there was a lot to take care of, and he was really overwhelmed. And I said, "Hey, man, there's going to be loose ends. You're not going to get everything done right, and that's okay." And he said that that brought him such relief. And I had heard that from my sponsor because in sobriety, when I was 39 years old, I moved to rural Japan. Just took a flying leap of faith. My wife is Japanese. She wanted our son to learn Japanese. And one of the things I like to say is, we can do whatever we want if we're sober. We can take risks. We can do crazy stuff. And so I just moved to Japan. I got a job teaching English, detonated my career,
Wow.
and I was panicking as I was trying to get my life. I was literally moving my entire life to a small town in rural Japan. And my sponsor said, "There's going to be loose ends. You're not going to get everything sorted. That's okay. Leave it up to God." And then I said that to my sponsee years later when his mom passed. And then I was going through some stuff years after that. I was on the phone with my weekly call with this sponsee, and he said, "There's going to be loose ends. You remember you told me that once."
That's so
Oh,
wonderful
yeah.
Yeah.
when that happens. It's like
Yeah.
we want everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid. I'm afraid of things not going right, and I think it's
Mhm.
all up to me. And then
Yeah.
I just need to be continually reminded that It's not all up to me. It's in my higher power's hands. And I don't even know actually how things are supposed to be. I just know what I think I know about how things are supposed to be, but
Yeah.
You've been sober all this time. How are you staying sober today? And are you still going to these meetings? He said with a smile in his voice, because I do too.
yeah, yeah. So the path narrows. I have to take a lot more of the suggestions now than I had to take when I was new, which I'm not suggesting that newcomers don't take suggestions. I'm just saying I can't get away with it the way I could before. So what does that look like? Well, I need my 20 minutes of meditation. I have to do it. I do 20 in the morning, and sometimes I do 20 at night if I can make it happen. I've always had, a relationship with a higher power, and it's really evolved over the years, and it's much more central to my life now than it ever has been. An analogy that I like to say, I have a son, he's 22 now, but when he was younger, he was growing fast like kids do, and every 6 months I'd have to buy him a new pair of shoes, and it would break my heart because I wasn't rich and I didn't like getting rid of a perfectly good pair of shoes. They weren't worn out.
Yes.
He outgrew them. That's like my concepts of my higher power. There was nothing wrong with the higher power that I had when I had 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, but I've needed a bigger higher power as the years have gone by, and I've had to get myself a bigger higher power every time. So that's one of the ways I stay sober.
I love that. My ability to tolerate the pain has diminished over the years.
Yeah.
The pain I would cause myself. And that's exactly what I'm hearing you say. The path narrows. I have to conduct myself in a way that makes me not have those cringe moments, those 2 a.m. moments of, oh my God, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, that's right. I have to do more service than I used to do. I do more of this prayer. The relief is that I actually want to do it more than I used
Oh,
to
yeah.
do. So the more I need it, the more kind of I want it. I've always been able to pray for the most part. But the idea of just sitting in meditation, it took me a long time to be able to do that.
What does meditation look like for you today?
One of the beautiful things about AA is that we can all approach these things the way that works for us. So I first started just sitting with, I guess, mindful meditation where I was drawing my attention to my breath. And that was very helpful. It showed me how my emotions are. It stilled my mind. But eventually I had to invite my higher power into it. I personally practice something that's called centering prayer, and it's really a lot just like mindful meditation, but the idea is that there's a God, and I'm consenting to the love of my higher power to enter into that time. But practically speaking, it's just sitting stilly and drawing my attention repeatedly. Instead of drawing my attention to my breath, just drawing my attention to my higher power.
So describe a week of your life and AA.
All right. So on Monday nights, I go to my home group, and that's a big book meeting. I usually go to fellowship at least one night a week. We just go to the diner, and I usually get, you know what a French dip sandwich is? It's like roast beef, and you dip it in au jus. I have what
Yes.
I call the American dip, which is a grilled cheese sandwich and a cup of chicken noodle soup.
Okay. But you're hanging out with friends in AA.
Alcoholics, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, we go after the meeting. It's like as we
Oh,
all
I
call
see.
it, meeting after the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we sit around and we usually complain about the speaker at the meeting,
Yeah.
which is an important part of
Yes.
fellowship. Then we bust each other's chops for complaining about the speaker
Yeah.
and not being good AAs. And then we catch up on our weeks and talk about whatever's going on with whomever. Usually I have a sponsee or two there, or my sponsor will be there. That's Monday night. My next meeting is usually Thursday. It's a big meeting. That's a speaker meeting. And same deal. Sometimes I go to fellowship after, sometimes I go home. My mornings all start, like I said, with that meditation, and my days all end with that meditation. I have 9 sponsees right now, and I have a couple who call me every day. So at least every day, I'm going to be on the phone with at least one sponsee. I try to call my sponsor at least once or twice a week.
Uh-huh.
And then I have a couple AA buddies that I call throughout the day. So I try to get at least 3 AA phone calls in a day. So there's a guy named Bill S at PAX, and he said that he was on the phone with his sponsee who was in a hurry and had to get off the phone, and his sponsee just blurted something out as he was saying goodbye, and it was exactly the thing that Bill needed to hear, which I would say sums up my life with 41 years of sobriety, which is it's a pretty good life for guys like us.
Oh, yeah.
It's time for the Ask It Basket.
Folks, we're out of questions for the Ask It basket. Wah, wah. We need you to call 212-870-3418 or write us at podcast@aagrapevine.org. Do it today. Pause the podcast right now.
Yeah, we need some questions. We need newcomer questions. Questions about the steps or the traditions. What's the best cake for anniversary celebrations? Questions about how to change the oil in a 1994 Camry. We don't care. We'll answer anything.
We are not click and clack. Thank you very much.
Okay. You're not going to necessarily get a correct answer.
There you go.
Shaun, thanks for being here. I got one more question for you.
Yeah, lay it on me.
You've been sober a long time now. You've learned a lot. Do you use roll-on perspirant or can you use aerosol?
I use stick, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Although I recoil from aerosol like a moth from a flame or whatever. So the promises have come true in many regards, including my capacity for aerosol products.
Shaun, thanks so much for joining us today.
Indeed.
Thanks,
it's been a real joy
Thanks,
chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. It was a lot of fun. I could do this all day.
I'm Martina B., Plainfield, New Jersey, and I subscribe to the Grapevine app because it is our way to support AA Grapevine and Lavinia. Let's go!
Thank you to everyone who supports this podcast with a subscription to the Grapevine magazine, in print or in the Grapevine app. Your support makes this half-hour variety hour possible. Only $2.99 a month.
$3 a month? Come on.
Since the earliest days of Alcoholics Anonymous, many of us have wrestled with what it means to surrender to a higher power. Some of us came in with a clear idea of God, while others leaned towards not God or something we couldn't yet name. That tension has been part of our shared experience from the very beginning. For an upcoming show, we want to explore how members have come to terms with this idea while working the steps. We'd love to hear about your own experience, how you understood surrender early on, how you worked with the idea of a higher power, and how your thinking may have changed over time. Please call 212-870-3418 and leave a message, or write to podcast@aagrapevine.org and leave your contact information. Your experience may be used on the show. It's time for a History Snippet with Mily T.
Hi everyone, my name is Mily T, and I'm an alcoholic from San Francisco, California. Today, we'd like to share a wonderful story from the Grapevine archives, written in January of 2002. It's called Getting Sober in San Francisco, 1945, by Les F. He writes that his D-Day was January 2nd, 1945. Having promised his family he would quit drinking, he was dying for a bottle. Sober and sick, he had to babysit his 1-year-old daughter. There was a knock at the door. Yes?
Hello, I'm Ray H. I know you don't know me, but I'm from AA.
Thinking Ray was from AAA Auto Insurance, Les invited him in.
I received this letter from you asking for help with your problem with alcohol. Here it is, look, signed with your name.
His wife had written it and forged his signature.
Well, as long as I'm here, let me tell you about my problem with alcohol and what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has meant to me these 3 years I've been sober.
Les thought, what a bunch of BS. No one could stay sober for 3 years. However, Ray carried the message, and this is what happened.
My first AA meeting was January 10th, 1945 in San Francisco. I was told the spot had been a speakeasy during Prohibition. There were about 24 people, including 5 women. There were also meetings once a week in Palo Alto, Oakland, and Sacramento, as well as in San Quentin Prison.
There were no telephone listings, only post office box numbers at the old Mission Street post office. That's how Ray received the letter written by my wife. Thank God for that letter. Anonymity was an absolute. There was no such thing as an open meeting. I was personally interrogated by some of the old-timers. Being an old-timer meant you were sober for 2 or 3 years. I was only 32 years old, and they didn't see how I could be a genuine alcoholic at that tender age. After I was sober for about 6 weeks and had gone to our San Francisco weekly meetings, a man named O.K. asked me to go with him and 3 others to San Quentin Prison for an AA meeting with the prisoners. He promised, "You'll not have to talk." Oh, boy. Anyway, we met Warden Clifton Duffy, a really great guy, who invited us to lunch at the prison dining room. From there, we went to an AA meeting with the prisoners. Boy, was I surprised. There were at least twice as many members in prison as there were in our San Francisco group. OK called on a couple to give a pitch. They got a lot of applause, and then OK said, "We have a young man here who's been sober for about a month. Let's hear from him. Give the kid a big hand." I think I had a double heart attack, 2 hemorrhages, and a nervous breakdown. I have no idea what I said, but OK said I did just fine. As for the others, the record shows that 80% of the alcoholics who became members of AA in prison never returned.
It's interesting how much has changed in AA, and yet how much has stayed the same. One alcoholic talking to another, carrying the message. I live in San Francisco, and I'm happy to report AA has continued to flourish with 125 meetings a day. If you're ever in San Francisco, maybe we'll meet at a meeting.
I'm at the very wit's end. Cuckoo. The meeting topic at the Brain Damage group tonight is character assassination, also known by the term gossip. The meeting is now open for your shares.
Hi, I'm Barnaby. I'm an alcoholic. One of the nice things about egotists is they don't gossip. They don't talk about other people at all.
It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.